And speaking of things that divide us, that is a great uh, segue into this passage that was so perplexing last week that we have decided to revisit it this week. It is Matthew chapter 10, verses 24 through 39, our gospel last week. Would someone be willing to read this passage so that we can? We meditated on it last week, and this week we will discuss it a little more academically.
I'll read if you want.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. The student is not above the teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for student to be like their teachers and servants like their masters. If the head of the house has been called Beelzebul, how much more the members of his household? So do not be afraid of them, for there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What I tell you in the dark, speak in the daylight. What is whispered in your ear, proclaim from the roofs. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not two sparrows? Whoops, hang on a second. It just flipped over. It's not here no more.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I can keep reading unless someone else. I'll go ahead and do it.
I don't know what happened.
That's okay. Are not two sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. And even the hairs of your head are all counted. So do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows. Everyone therefore who acknowledges me before others, I also will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. And whoever denies me before others, I also will deny before my Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. Any insights since last week?
I'm still lost on that daughter against mother and daughter-in-law. I try to think of it, just I can't get nothing out of it. If somebody else has an idea.
Sounds very culty.
This is a quote from Jesus, is quoting Micah 7:6, and he's talking about Micah's talking about time when there's going to be conflict between mothers, fathers, others, and people, because of what is to come, the kingdom of God. And I think I really liked what Brian had to say during his sermon about the peace of Rome, that somehow peace can be weaponized, that peace is not necessarily peaceful, but it can be, it means no conflict at any price. That means peace, just not necessarily doing the right thing, but just doing what it is to keep any disruption, any discord from happening. And Jesus is saying, I'm sorry to say that if you're going to work for justice, if you're going to bring about the kind of kingdom that I've come to bring about, sometimes people are just going to resist that, and you're going to be in conflict with them. Not to say that when you're in conflict with people, you need to deal with it in a violent way, but to deal with it in a forthright way, to understand that yes, we love our mothers and fathers and sisters and brothers, but the time may come when we're going to be in conflict with them because of what we know to be right, and we have to stand up for what's right, even in the face of the fact that that's going to bring discord. And I think this passage really speaks to where we are today. I think it brings a lot of truth. The fact that a lot of us have loved ones, friends, family, people we grew up with, that we're just on different sides on some issues right now. And we need to stand up for justice, and we need to stand up for the love and grace that Jesus showed. And if that means sometimes it's going to put us in difficult situations with our families, our former friends, whatever, we just have to be willing to understand that's the part of the price of taking up your cross sometimes. But anyway, that's just what I was thinking of as I was looking at this.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Good. Thank you very much.
I think an important thing to also remember about the Gospels is they were written looking back on the life of Jesus. So this gospel was written for a Christian community that was expelled from their synagogues. And so they were experiencing the feeling of being set against their family members. And so part of what is happening is this is not theoretical. This is a comfort to them that, yes, these horrible things are happening to you, but it will be okay. There's a reason for the fact that you are suffering by your parents are still part of the synagogue, but you've been kicked out, or you have family members who are aligned with Rome and worship the emperor, and you've been punished because you don't want to do that. And so it's their experience, just and it is also, like David said, our experience. And so there's comfort in the fact that it's not theoretical, it's already happening. And so Jesus is saying, so we're hearing the message of Jesus applying to what we're already experiencing, not saying that Jesus is going to drive a wedge in us between us sometime in the future. I don't know if that helps.
It makes a big difference looking at it as standing up for your stuff can cause others to turn to you versus you should turn others away. So my table, my home, whatever. I have certain views, certain convictions, certain religion that I do not share with all of my family, I have not quiet rules of things that can be said or cannot be said, and that those who come into my home are welcome. And if you can't handle that, then you can get the hell out. But you are welcome in my home, whether I share views with you or not. So when I read this at first, I read it as God saying, you need to break the peace. And like I said, I'm not saying I'll allow anything at my table, but I'm saying I'm not. God welcomed those he didn't agree with to his table. God welcomed everybody. So there's a huge difference between I should shun versus I may then be shunned. And I may then be shunned is a much more comforting thing, that God would be there for you then versus, and I'm not saying God's saying permit or allow certain things. Absolutely not. Like I said, I strongly do not permit or allow certain things because, look, my table is my table. Like, I'm kind of fierce in that.
As for my house,
Yeah,
we will love and serve the Lord. As for my house,
yeah. I was going to
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
and I'm not.
What you want in your own.
as for my house, I will love and serve the Lord.
And you are welcome here, and you will always be welcome here in a manner that I have determined is respectful. You may think differently than me, and I'm not going to lose my mind convincing certain people to change their mind, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's just not.
You're talking about your brother.
Why you would.
And just remember, Jesus lived his life in a certain way where he took care of others, he showed love and compassion, and it cost him. People didn't like what he had to say because it threatened the system, it threatened the way the power structure, the hierarchy. And because of that, he was killed. He went to the cross. And he's saying that you're experiencing the same thing I was, and you're doing it because you're doing the right thing. And unfortunately, when you stand up for justice and you stand up for rights for people in positions of privilege are going to be angry, and they're going to reach out to you. And I think, yeah, so it's going to bring a sword, not not a sword in the sense that you need to go out there and kill people, but in the sense that there's going to be separation. You know.
And David, I think that's important, and I think what you just mentioned is what the beginning of this passage is getting at. A disciple is not above the teacher. So even Jesus was harmed, ridiculed, put to death for his beliefs. Do you think that you're going to be exempt from it if your teacher was not exempt from it?
Yeah.
So it's if you're following in this way, be ready for some kind of backlash.
Brian, may I please have a sheet of paper?
Yes.
Thank you.
I was thinking about this week, and one of my things is I really like to be comfortable, right? I don't think God cares a lot about how comfortable I am. And sometimes, he has ideas that are really uncomfortable. And so listening to God is really hard sometimes because I like to be home in my pajamas.
Yeah.
I really do. And I like to get along with everybody. And I don't like causing problems. I don't like having to speak up. And so I think some of this, at least for me, and I'm sure there's lots of layers to it, is this: if you're going to do what's right, and Jesus's ideas were radical then and they're radical now, right? This idea that leaders should be servants and the least should be first. And all of this, it does not work really well with capitalism. He even did a lot that's kind of against the patriarchy. He listened to women, and the first people who saw him were women. Women couldn't even testify in court, but they're the ones giving testimony that he's risen. So he upset so many systems. And if you're going to upset systems, people are going to be super uncomfortable, and I'm going to be uncomfortable. And I've left family dinners because I had kids and there was people saying things that went against that all people deserve respect and dignity. And I've taken my kids and left and caused rifts in my family. And so that part made a lot of sense to me. It's not very comforting. None of this is. But this idea, I think that's what the second little bit, the paragraph is like, yeah, it's scary. And also, what's more important, being uncomfortable or having your soul intact? Right?
Compromising who you are.
Yes, it's awful. And he was, physically hurt. And I'm just dealing with social awkwardness. But it's still what's more important at this point? And it's you've got to think about, because my soul's going to go on, and that moment of awkwardness is going to pass. So I don't know. That's kind of what I got out of it. Yeah. But I really don't like being uncomfortable.
That's absolutely.
Brian was saying about the Peace of Rome. And the Peace of Rome, they had strict household codes. The people have places, and the patriarch, the paterfamilias, they called it, the guy in charge of the family, he pretty much called the shots for the whole family. And part of the Peace of Rome was almost illegal to fight against this system. So you're in a system where one person's in charge and it's all in a hierarchy. So when Jesus says, no, everyone's of equal value and all these things, it brings you into direct conflict with the quote unquote Peace of Rome. Yeah. And so, like you say, it's not comfortable, Charity, but it is comforting in a sense to know that when you're experiencing this, it's not because you're doing the wrong thing. It's to be expected because Jesus, like you said, his message was so radical, so different.
I don't know if anyone else is familiar with the joke that young men think about the Roman Empire way too much.
Yes. What's your Roman Empire?
Yeah.
What's that, Brian? Go ahead.
There was a joke online. This was probably a year or two ago that it was really popular, where it was young men think about the Roman Empire too much. It was women asking their boyfriends usually, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And them being like, probably once a week.
Yeah, and then there was just it like spun off that like what's your Roman Empire, and it was just like what's something you think about all the time, like what are you obsessed with for no great reason, but yeah.
So I bring that up because I feel like I have been talking a lot about the Roman Empire.
know what I think, but only here when you're bringing it up. That's really.
But it's because the Gospel of Matthew is very specifically written in opposition to the Roman Empire. That title, the Kingdom of God, is primarily in the Gospel of Matthew, and he says it something like 25 times in the Gospel, and the word that he uses is he very clearly is talking about the kingdom of God as opposed to the kingdom of Rome.
Right.
And so everything that we're reading here, he is setting up a paradigm that is in opposition to what is going on in their society. And so I think I think it's very appropriate that we're doing that in our modern day. Is this what Jesus is suggesting is radical and is in opposition to the power structure that we are a part of today? But if you're wondering why I keep talking about Rome so much, it's on purpose.
But our whole flavor of Christianity came through Rome.
It did.
Right? Like everything that we've, because I've heard it like Jesus was like an explosion, it radiated out. And so there's like North African branches of Christianity and Christianity that flowed through the Middle East. Like there's Persian Christians. And what we've gotten growing up here kind of all went through Rome. And so everything's got a Rome flavor to it.
Yeah. And that's the project of deconstruction is sorting out where empire adopted Christianity for its usefulness
and co-opted and took the Lord's name in vain. All that. It's complicated.
It is. And those other strands of Christianity are also not perfectly pure. We have all made mistakes. We've made different mistakes, and that's part of what makes Christianity interesting. Is we're all still trying to figure out what we were supposed to be doing all along.
We're only humans.
We're gonna mess it up.
I firmly believe that every generation has to redo its theology. You just have to consider and you look at the way of Jesus and what he calls us to, and you look at your culture and you see where the points, the clashing points are, where the swords are cutting us apart. And you have to adopt the way you do your theology and live your Christian walk following Jesus in opposition almost always to the prominent structure of the culture around you.
I think it's important to do things like what we did last week, because I'm super pragmatic with my theology and my faith, and it's like I feel like God can talk to people and give direct guidance, and I feel like when you take a minute and you like we did last week, like let him like ask and then let him give him God, him, them, or whatever. Yeah, that's just a habit, but like a chance to speak into you and listen, because I feel like a lot of what we get wrong with just some space. I don't know. That's been my experience anyway. That a lot of it can be very self-correcting if you can step away from, I have to know the exact right answer, and I have to have one person that I trust that I'm going to put on a pedestal above all other people, and then be disappointed when they inevitably turn into a real person. When you can get away from all that and like listen. I don't know. I think it's important.
Absolutely. I think we need. What was that? I was reading that like as humans, we need 20 minutes of zone out time a day where you're not actively processing information. And I feel like we need that in our prayer life too, where we're not trying to figure things out. We're just kind of being in the presence of God. I don't know if 20 minutes is the right answer, but we need time.
And I try not
to not
sorry.
to knots. I don't know, just to knots.
Mhm.
And I try not to go to God with a laundry list all the time. Like what do you want?
Mhm.
Like I don't even know. I think the things I want probably are not the same things that you want. So just can you speak into me and help? Because I think it's easy to go with a laundry list,
Mhm.
like make sure Hope's good at college. Daisy doesn't feel good. Fix that. Right. And I have a list of things. I'm not saying that they're not important, but sometimes I don't leave room for like,
Yeah.
okay, and like do you get a chance to talk in this conversation too?
Mhm.
This app that I was telling you that I use a lot, and it has passages, 2 or 3 of them, but it'll usually say in the beginning, this might be for you today, that maybe you just want to be quiet and talk to God, and you don't have to read those. And
I like
it's,
that.
That's nice.
it is, because sometimes I really don't want to do all that. I just want to sit and
And
it comes
that's
just.
Yeah.
that's where the Desert Fathers, that's where the tradition of the mystics, and that's where contemplation and meditation comes in.
Yeah.
It's not something we make room for, but I think it can be very powerful if you just empty your mind, just try to stay in God's presence and shut up long enough so that He can heal you or to you or whatever, instead of always talking at Him and telling God what you want Him to do, or
Yeah.
to do. But and I think that's something that maybe that's a tradition that we need to get more in touch with. The fact that part of every Christian's life, I think, is not just information input, but just sitting in the presence of God.
And just like meditation, your mind will wander,
Mhm.
but then just bring it back to
Mhm.
God. So, I mean, otherwise you're fighting to try to do this, and that's not what you want to do. You just want to relax and
Mhm.
get it in.
One of my favorite forms of meditation is I love Taizé services, which Taizé is a Christian community in France, and they have a specific style of hymn that is very short and repeated. And because they're an international community, they have these hymns in all different languages. And my favorite are the ones that are not in English. Because if I can't understand what I'm saying, if I'm just repeating syllables with a same melody, that really helps focus my prayer. Because I really connect to God through music often.
Mm.
So I really like that as a form of meditation because my mind does wander if I don't have something, or like walking labyrinths because the movement helps me focus myself. But yeah, I think everybody needs some kind of aid unless they've really been practicing. Like the Desert Fathers, that they're doing it for hours a day. We need help because it's not what our culture is.
I don't know if I sent it to you. Maybe like labyrinth.com or something. There's a website that lists all the labyrinths all over. You just put in where you're at and it'll show you the different labyrinths.
A labyrinth is like a maze, but there's only one pathway. So you can't get lost.
Oh, all right.
And so the way you pray with a labyrinth in a Christian context is you walk towards the center, and then you walk right back out. And there's different methods of doing it. Some people can ask for things on the way in and give thanks on the way out. That sort of thing.
But they're fairly flat to the ground. Like some are just flat bricks on the ground, and you just see the design. Sometimes there's one. The Wayside Chapel?
Yeah.
There's a labyrinth right there, and there's a brick for Mom there.
There's one in Palos too at the center. Yeah.
It's got like 5 different names.
Yeah.
I know something that Father Richard Rourke suggested in terms of meditation. There's several quick things. The one that I really liked and I used to use when I would do meditation was just take this scripture, be still and know that I am God.
Mm-hmm.
And be quiet, and then say, be still and know that I am. And then be still and know. And then be still and then be.
Mm-hmm. I really like that
I
one.
agree with you. I think meditation, just trying to think of nothing, I can't do that either. But if I have some way of directing it, either sometimes I think of God's love and then try to reflect it back to Him, and then move it out to the people around me. And I can't think of nothing. But if I can direct my mind away from all this stuff that's hammering at me,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just, yeah. Anyway, so
I have angry conversations. Like, what the heck do you want from me?
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like that if I'm just honest, like even that, like I have, if then I like shut up and give it a minute. Like I often hear something back. It's not what I want to hear.
Absolutely.
Like 95% of the time. I even think that just I get angry and I have these
Mm-hmm.
like shouting matches because I'm frustrated and it's like I just want to know what I'm supposed to do. And then like I think that's I don't know. Like I've never read that really in a book, but I feel like any honest communication, God is pretty crafty. Like he finds ways to get at me. And I think all of us, right? I don't think I'm special in that regard. It's just
Remember what Jay told you? Jackie, when this happened, this friend, she said, I'm really mad at God. He says, well, at least you believe in God. So, you look at it that way. So
Well, that was the priest. Jay's the one who said it.
The priest said that. I'm sorry.
I said I was scared and overwhelmed and stuff. Jay's like, well, this Jesus you've got, they don't do religion. Didn't he get pissed at his dad? And, asked why his dad was doing this. And didn't he cry a lot and stuff? Because, I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you know why Jesus did that. I forgot that part.
When I was doing my whole like coming to faith thing, I read a book by Francis Collins, who is head of NIH at the time, but when that was a very prestigious position. And he was like a scientist. He really didn't have he'd grown up in a church and then left. But he said that he just kept watching people like giving terminal diagnoses. And this is what he was doing like all day long.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then people would have very different reactions. And he started just noticing patterns because he's a scientist. And he was like, people who had a strong faith were dealing so much better.
Oh, sure.
And then watching people at the end of it, and he was just like, and it wasn't like, it didn't make a lot of sense to him. And he like started asking some of his colleagues, and they're like, well, what's your relationship like with God? He's like, ah. And then he went to a couple churches, and then he had this moment where God like kind of came into his life in a real way. And it's such a good book for people who like, I want to be rational, and I don't want to like not teach evolution in schools and all the kind of stuff. I don't want to be hateful. And also maybe there's this whole other aspect of my life that I'm ignoring and could be open to. Yeah. And that was like a cool book. But there are a lot of, I don't know. I think we only see fringe people and zealots on TV sometimes that give it all a bad name. Mm-hmm. And the idea that you're going to doubt it all means you're damned. And the idea that you're going to ever, I don't know, act like a human is bad. I think we can act like humans and God's like okay with that.
Yeah.
Is my big breakthrough.
God became a human. Right. God didn't value humanity.
Yeah.
God wouldn't have done that.
Those are my thoughts. But this was a great passage for that.
I'm glad, I don't remember who suggested it, but I'm glad whoever did suggested an extra week because I think it warranted it.
Yeah, we're out of it this time, yeah.
Yeah.
Really.
Just
it
helped
understand what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Jesus parables and Jesus sayings are very often hard.
Mm-hmm.
Hard.
Yeah.
As Leslie has said before, Jesus sayings are more like wisdom literature than they are facts and a rule book to go by. There are things that make us go beyond our rational minds and go deeper to a place that within us where we're all equal and we can all, stand before God, and like Charity says, we can be honest, and God can handle that. God, yeah, he can handle it very well. He knows. Jesus came and Jesus lived like we did. He understands. He felt the same things we do. and he understands. And when we are honest with God and honest with ourselves, that's when God can communicate to us.
Even the hairs of your head are all counted.
Yep.
See, we got
There we go.
all
We
of it.
circled back.
It's easy for him when it comes to me.
Oh, boy, I know that feeling. All right, I'm gonna stop recording.